Hi everybody, today we have a requested video and this video was requested by Colouring Jen 1975. She left a comment in one of my previous videos and she said that she'd like to see me colour a darker skin tone using Crayola pencils. And as luck would have it, around that same time I actually ordered the 100 set of coloured pencils and those have arrived now. The box is a little bit damaged because it was an Amazon warehouse deal, but all the pencils are fine, so I do have the 100 colours now. And I thought it might be a good way to try those out was to do that suggestion and try and make a dark skin tone with those Crayola pencils. And I'm using an image from this magazine here. This is the Mysterious Women Special, Colouring Heaven. Colouring Heaven. This is by Maud Lemoine, who's one of my favourite artists, so yeah, great excuse to colour one of her pictures. And I chose this picture because it has two people in it, and I wanted to try and colour a picture with at least two people in it to try and get a couple of variations of skin tone going on. I wanted to try one with a cooler kind of base tone and one with a more warmer base tone to see what I could make happen, and I think I've got a couple of combinations that are working. So I'll show you how I was getting those colour combinations today. And the picture that I am choosing to colour is this one here. And you can see I do have the warmer skin tone there with the kind of orangey yellow ochre kind of base tone. And I have the cooler one here using a lavender as a base tone, as I have tried that in a previous video with different pencils. And I thought I'd maybe give that a go with the Crayolas, see if that would work. And yeah, I think both of those are working pretty well. So I'll zoom us in and I'll show you the pencils I was using to get those skin tones. And hopefully I can make it work the same as it was working down here, because this was a couple of days ago, so fingers crossed I can get that working again. At least I'll give you the colour combinations if nothing else. So I'll zoom us in and we'll get started. Okay, so I've zoomed us in a little bit closer now, and I'm going to start by trying the warmer skin tone, and I'll show you the colours that I did pick out to do this one. And the colours that I've picked out for this lady here, we have the black, which I'm using for the very dark shadows, and that's for both skin tones. I was using the black for the dark shadows. We have the white, which I tried to do a little bit of blending with it. It's not as good as the white polychromos, but it did help a little bit along these edges. So, yep, the white there. I have the brown, dark chocolate, and the tan. And I'll start with the dark chocolate, as I do like to start with the darker areas when I'm doing a face, just to try and map out where the shadows are going to be going. And as they are Crayolas, I figured there's not really a whole lot of layering I'm going to be able to do, especially on this Colouring Heaven paper. Rougher paper tends to work better with the Crayola pencils, I've found. I've had them working quite well on the Amazon paper before now. I'm going to give this lady a little bit of a shadow to the side of her nose. I'm going to have my light coming from the left, I think. Usually I colour pictures with just one person in them, and when I have a picture that has this 3/4 view going on, I usually try and make my light source come from the side, which has the most kind of area of face that will be getting the light, if that makes sense, so that the nose will be casting a shadow over onto this smaller side of the face and making the shading a little bit easier for me. I find that way a lot easier to shade. So that means this face will be a little bit of an experiment, a bit out of my comfort zone, because the light will be coming from the opposite side that I usually try and have it coming. So yeah, that will be interesting. I'm going in pretty lightly with this dark chocolate colour because I'm going to try and get a little bit of layering going on. There isn't going to be super tons, as it is. Crayolas, as I've said, on this paper doesn't lend itself to tons of layering with the harder pencils. But I'll try to get a few layers going on. I think I had at least 3 or 4 going on in these areas that I have coloured. And then blending with the white on top of that. So we'll see what we can get going on. And I'm not entirely sure what colour to use for the blushy cheeks for the darker skin tone. So I've picked out what I think is a warmer pink and a cooler pink. And I'm going to try and go with those to go for the cheeks. Hoping I can get that working, because on the kind of neck and shoulders as I've coloured, there wasn't really a lot of the pink that was being added in. So we'll obviously see how those goes, and hopefully we can make that work. So that's the dark chocolate. The kind of mid-tone was this, it's just called brown, I think. Yep, this one is just called brown. So this was the mid-tone kind of colour that I was using. But keeping the pressure kind of fairly light on these early layers. Just trying to build up the colour a little bit, so we can get those nice dark, deep shades going on. And as this cheek is in the dark, not going to be a whole lot of highlight. My blending is not the best at the best of times, so there'll probably be some pencil strokes kind of visible, which the blending with the white on top should help to disguise that a little bit. But as I figure there will be pencil strokes showing, I'm trying to keep them all going in the same direction instead of trying to do a circular kind of motion as I would with normal pencils. This is the lighter tone, the tan. Bringing that in along the areas where the light would most likely be hitting it, to try and give that kind of yellow ochre sort of undertone in the highlights. And that's the kind of basis of our colour there. And I did pick out, as I said, a warmer pink. This is called Tickle Me Pink. So I picked out this one, which hopefully might work to add a little bit of blush to these cheeks here. Just add a little bit of a pinker tone there. Yeah, that seems to be working. It's looked to me like a warmer kind of pink tone. I'll admit that I haven't actually swatched these yet. I just dived right in and started testing them out with this skin tone kind of experiment, playing with them that way. I think that pink is working quite well there. Hopefully that's showing up on camera. Nice pink cheek she's got. Trying to blend it into the tan colour a little bit at least. And this side of her face would be in the shadows, so we are wanting the colours this side to be darker, less of the white paper showing. Okay, we're wanting that nose to be making more of a shadow on this side of the face, so we'll start trying to build up those layers now. This is going back to the brown. I like that nose shape we've got going on there. I want to try and keep that. I'm quite happy with that nose shape. Noses, yeah, they're usually pretty tricky to try and get looking right, I think, in my experience anyways. We do have a little bit of a guideline there that we can work to, which is always good. Let's try bringing in the black very, very lightly here. We are still able to layer slightly here. The black from Crayola is not the most kind of opaque. It's not the most opaque colour, but it is giving us more of a darker kind of shadow there. Let's bring in the creases for our eyelids. Maybe add a little bit down the side of her nose there to give some indication of which way our light is coming. I'll bring in the darker brown to try and blend that out a little bit. So that'll be the dark chocolate brown. And there we go. Now our layers are starting to build up and give us that richer colour. I'm trying to leave my usual kind of highlight along the edge of the face. You may have noticed I have actually held off from using the white gel pen on the bits that I have actually coloured. I've tried to hold off using the white gel pen just to keep things really simple with the budget pencils, and I have tried to keep the skin tones to about 3 or 4 colours. Of course, you don't have to try and blend with the white. It's just something I like to do in my normal colouring, so I thought I might as well try blending with the white Crayola, which does give a little bit of a chance to blend in those pencil strokes. So, though it's not quite as good as the white Polychromos. Although, of course, you don't have to use it at all. I'm starting to press a little bit harder now. Putting the pressure on with these colours. Trying to blend that pink with the tan colour. Trying to keep that highlight, but bringing in this lighter tan. Maybe for our eyelids here. need to come back in with the brown. I think overlaying this brown colour with the tan was giving me that nice warm kind of orangey colour that I really like down here on her neck, so I'm going to try and bring that in. As usual, I've saved the hardest part to colour on camera. I'm hoping I can make this face work. Get the nice colours coming out. But this side of her face is going to be in the shade anyways. So we're going to have a lot of the dark colours this side. Still trying to give a bit of a hint of the shape. Bit of shadow there to show their cheek is coming out there. Let's try blending that with the white. It does help kind of blend in those pencil strokes a little bit, but not as much as I would usually do. But I think it will work. We're at about the limit of layers that we can get to there now, I think. I have tried to blend a little bit more nicely than I did down in the neck area there. I really like that nose shape. I'm going to try to keep that nose shape. That's not looking too bad, I don't think. We need to bring in a little bit more of this yellow. Close down that highlight a little bit more. We wouldn't have so much on that side of her face, and I think on this side of her face here we want to bring in more of the tan colour to maybe show where those highlights are. But again, I think I'm going to start with the darker brown, the dark chocolate. Just very, very lightly to map in those shadows. Not so much on this side of her face, I don't think, but I do want to try and emphasize those cheeks a little bit. So we can bring in that pink for her little blushy cheeks. I did give my lady one of my little beauty marks down there on her neck, and that was not because the pencils weren't blending. I just wanted to give her one because I think sometimes it makes skin look a little bit more natural, so I'll just give her one over here on this side of her face to show you how I was doing that. This is the black I'm bringing in just to do a dot. And then with the dark chocolate coming over the top. And there we go, she has a little beauty mark that side of her face. I do love how they work. Okay, we're going to go in with the brown over on this side of her face now. And I want this brown to be overlaying that tan quite a bit because that's giving this kind of orangey tone here, the sort of yellow ochre that I want to have coming through. We need to be adding a bit of shading around her eye socket to show that her nose has a bit of shape, but again, nose is not my strong point. Try and make sure this area of highlight down where the light would be hitting the top of her nose, and underneath there would be in shadow. I'm thinking you'd have the light hitting down there. Something along those lines, and the darker shadow underneath. It took me a while to figure out, so I will just mention this kind of indentation above the lips. The shadow is actually on the side that the light is coming from. It took me a while to figure out that, but yeah, the shadow on that kind of indentation above the lips, I have no idea what it's actually called. There's probably some sort of a term for it, but the shadow is actually on the side that the light is coming from. Just to give an indication of that there. And we do want this tan to be more prevalent on this side. And maybe have some white of the paper for the highlights coming through. And once we've got this side of the face sorted, we can adjust the shadows on the other side if we feel like it needs it. And as always, yeah, it's just suggestions. These are not what you definitely have to use to colour skin with the Crayola pencils. I always encourage anybody to play around, see what works for you. And the pink I'm bringing in, what was it called? Tickle Me Pink, was it? For the cheeks there. I'm not sure if these names of these pencils have changed because my other set is really pretty old and they just have boring names like pink, brown, blue. I don't know if Crayola have kind of revised their naming policy for their colours recently or not. Okay, this is the brown I'm going back in with now, trying to build up those slightly darker tones, and I want the brown to be overlaying the tan because that was giving us the nice kind of orangey colour. And again leaving the shadow line along the edge of her face where I would normally go in with the white gel pen. Yeah, we do have that nice orangey colour coming in there now. So that's what I want to emphasise on this side, to show that the light is hitting her skin and that kind of tan or yellow ochre sort of colour. That's the nearest I could find to yellow ochre. I don't want it to be too yellow, but this tan seemed to be just about the right colour to be giving us that undertone, kind of orange undertone for the skin. We do have some marks there where the pencil has gotten a little bit scratchy, but hopefully we can cover those up either with more layers on top or with the white when we bring that in to try and do a little bit of blending. I think I've said before, working with budget pencils, Crayolas and the pencils that I got from the pound shop, anything like that, is a lot more work. The colours tend to be not so pigmented. You do have to layer a lot. But I think you can use them to get some really nice effects. I was liking how the skin was working earlier, so yeah, you can get some really nice effects with them. They do take a bit more patience, pretty much is what I'm saying there. They do take a little bit more patience to get the same kind of effects. This is the brown I'm just bringing in. I think it's just called brown, this one. Yeah, I'm just called brown. Just bringing in that shadow under her eye socket there. We do want her face to look like we do have a little bit of structure going on. But noses, I do struggle with noses. I'm not ashamed to admit that, but yeah, I do struggle with noses quite a lot. I've not quite decided what colour hair I'm going to give these ladies. Possibly fantasy colours, I haven't quite decided. Or maybe be more natural and give them both the black hair or the really dark brown. I haven't decided. We're going to see how we feel when we get to that, I think. And looking at them, these flowers do seem to look like primroses though, so I might go with the yellow for those flowers and just build off that. Maybe I'll try and keep to Crayola for the whole picture, just to try out a few more of the colours. But this is the black, just for the very darker shadows. I'm really trying to build up the colours now. Along the edges of her jawline there, maybe underneath this hair, as the light would be coming from the left there, so her hair would be casting kind of a shadow there. Oh, her eyebrows are already coloured. That's nice to know. Yeah, they would actually be a dark colour eyebrow, so we're all good there. And this is the dark chocolate brown, trying to blend in that black very slightly. And as I said, I want to really kind of emphasise this tan colour on this side. I'm pressing quite hard there just to try and get that ochre colour coming through. I blend that into the pink of her cheeks pretty much. Just erase a little bit there. I want a lot more of a highlight on this side of her face. She's looking into the light and I want a lot more of this tan colour. I always seem to end up with faces looking a slightly different colour to the neck if I do go in and do the neck first. I think that's happened a couple of times. But at least if my skin isn't working totally how I wanted it to or expected it to, I've given you the colour combinations that I have used. Coming in with the dark chocolate there, trying to blend in that darker shadow on the bottom of her face a little bit more. I think I'll try blending with the white to see if we can get rid of those scratchy lines a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Skin is supposed to have some sort of texture anyways, right? Oh yeah, that's working to blend that pink into the tan, which is quite nice there. That's working quite nicely. Yeah, I think actually that's working pretty well. I've yet to tackle the nose. Let's have a go here. Maybe we can bring in the tan colour a bit more for her nose. Kind of bridge there. And we just need to blend that in to the lighter colour, I'm thinking. Again, we'll need a shadow for our eyelid. Let's just get this nose looking like it's got a little bit of structure there. That's not too terrible. This part of her forehead up here would be quite dark as it's behind all her hair, I think. The light would be here more than anywhere. And her fringe has stopped casting the shadows, or her bangs, I think they're called in the US. They're called bangs, aren't they? But in the UK, yeah, this is a fringe. We want to make that look as if it has a bit of a shadow, so I might need to bring in the black there for a darker shadow for that strand of hair. Behind there, most likely. And depending on how dark you do actually want the skin to be, that will depend how many layers you'll be putting in here. And how much of the black you use, really. Keep to the lighter colours if you want a lighter shade of the dark skin tone, or as always, feel free to play around and see what you can make work. Let's blend with the white. Yeah, I do like the way that pink is working. That pink does seem to match in quite well with these colours I was using for the skin tone. Bit of a lucky guess. Hopefully the other lady with the cooler skin tones I've done just as well, if I'm lucky. Even quite a lot of the white paper there to show that the light is coming in and reflecting. Her skin is a little bit shiny, kind of glowy. I think we need a little bit more of a darker shadow up there, I think, to define that nose a little bit more. Give that a little bit more form. So let's bring in the dark chocolate. Is that the dark chocolate? Yes, it is. I usually end up playing around a lot more with noses, as I've said. I do find them tricky. That is where I do bring in the white gel pen. If I do end up using one, definitely along the side of the nose where the light would be coming. And this part of her face would be fairly dark, I think. So this is the brown. Hopefully I've managed to remember to say what each colour is as I've been using it, but this is the brown. I will list the colours down in the description, so at least you will know the combination I have been using for this skin. That seems to have worked. And yeah, as many layers, as much blending as you really want. That's entirely up to personal preference. Just keep going until you're happy with how your lady's looking. I mean, just remember to keep more of your darker colours towards the side that's away from the light. More highlights, more of the lighter colours on the side that is towards the light. And yeah, I have said that there are some kind of lines here. I'm not sure if they're showing up on camera, but there are some lines there. The pencils are getting a little bit scratchy. It could be because I've done a few too many layers and the pencils aren't really happy with me. But if you do have some blending solution, I could possibly go in with the white polychromos, that might sort that out, but that's why I kept my strokes going mostly the same way, around like this, around the side of her face. So at least we're following the line. I know that I would end up putting on quite a lot of pressure, pressing down quite a lot on the pencil, so trying to keep the circular kind of motion that I would usually recommend. I don't think that would work super well, but when I do use Crayolas, I do tend to work in a more kind of sketchier way and just keep the pencil strokes going in the same direction. The nose is looking a little pale there, I think. I'm not sure the lighter kind of layers of pencil will be showing up on the camera. I'll try and adjust them a little bit to make sure they do show up. I want you guys to be able to see what I'm actually doing. Okay, that's not too bad. I may go back in and work on that nose a little bit more, but I don't want to bore you guys with that too much. The main idea for this video was to show the skin combinations, the colours that I would be using. And we've been through all that, I think so. So I think it's about time to move on to the cooler combination there that I was using. So for this cooler skin tone, with the purple kind of lavender colour as a base, I was using again the black and the white just for blending, the black for the very darkest shadows, and the three tones I was using for the very dark shadows I brought in the dark blue. As a base tone we have the lilac, and the brown I'm using is called Beaver. Those are all available in the 100 set of Crayola. And yeah, this one is going to be interesting because I'm not used to having the light coming from that side. So this is the Beaver brown. I'm going to start maybe with mapping out the shadows, doing her eye socket there. I would have a lot more shadows down the side of her nose. Coming this way this time. Don't have much actual face in the light. The light would be this side, and we would still have a little bit of a shadow where the eye socket is, but this side of the face would be in the light, so we are being a little bit more sparing with our shadows on the smaller side of our face this time. So we might as well start with the smaller side of her face as I would normally do. That's where the most shadowy areas would be. This is the lilac, did I say it was called? Yeah, the lilac. Picking up some texture there from my scrap paper, so I'll just swap that out, try and find some cleaner scrap paper. Okay, we have some cleaner scrap paper. I think this lady may end up with a beauty mark on her forehead because we do have some texture picked up from the scrap paper that was underneath there. Okay, and for her cheeks this time, I have picked up magenta. This seemed a more cooler colour pink that I thought might work a little bit better for her plushy cheeks there. Yeah, I think that's working in quite nicely. Try and blend that into a purple. Let's come in again with that brown. Pressing a bit harder this time. The brown was called Beaver. We want to blend that into the purple if we can, because we do want this to be a natural skin tone more than a fantasy kind of skin tone. And the black. All the darker areas, and I seem to have defaulted to colouring this as if the light is coming from that side. I don't know. I'll try and adjust a little bit. There would be some shadow there because the face would go in there before coming out for the cheeks, so a little bit of an excuse, might be able to get away with it. Let's bring that magenta a bit more for her cheeks there, that's better. Try and ease off as we go up towards the very highlighted area. Then we'll be blending into that lilac colour more towards your eye. There we go, that's it. Back to the brown now, the Beaver colour. There would be a shadow underneath his hair here, so I may need to bring in the black again, I think. I'll try and blend that magenta in a little bit better. Let's try blending that in with the white on this side of her face here. Yeah, there we go. Brown is blending into the purple a little bit better there. Add in a little dent on top of her lips there, and we'll start work on this side of her face now. Which way would we get? This way. This is the beaver, the dark brown. I'm thinking the light would be hitting the top of her cheek there. So we're going to bring in the pink to give the kind of blushy cheek effect that I like to do. There'll be a little bit of a highlight around this part here. But we are going to bring in a lot more of the darker colours on this side. The other side I tried to keep them mainly to the purple. I'm just going over that purple with a very, very, very light layer of the beaver there. Try and make it look a little bit more natural. There we go. I'm going very lightly with the beaver colour on this side. Beaver colour. It's kind of hard to say beaver. Over on this side. Just to show where the shadows would be. Again in the eye socket. Underneath her hair. And we have the lilac. Try and make less of a highlight on this side underneath her eye, because this is the side that's in the dark. Not the way I usually work, so trying to puzzle this out is, yeah, kind of a little bit out of my comfort zone here, but it'll probably be a good thing. I do like doing dark skin tone with the kind of purple or lavender undertone, since I saw a video by Lisa Mitrokin where she tried it out to try and get a really, really dark skin tone going on, and I thought it looked really cool. So I do like doing my dark skin tones with the lavender undertone, but usually I use the Castle Arts pencils. So this is a little bit of an experiment, trying to get it going on with the Crayola. I think it's worked pretty well so far, so we'll try and have some highlights going on her nose there. It would be darker underneath there. It is hard to figure out this shading. Where would her cheeks come in? That might help me if I kind of sketch out where this pink would come into. Oh, her blushy cheeks. Let's see. A little dark at this side. I totally forgot that I had this dark blue here for doing in the shadows. I could have brought in instead of the black. That works slightly better. I wasn't using it for the very, very darkest areas where I brought the black in and then blending that out. But that is possibly optional, because I did forget all about it and it was still looking pretty okay without the blue, so yeah, that I would say is pretty optional. Let me blend in the blue with the white. Would that look? Yeah, there we go. There wouldn't be as many shadows on that side of the face. Need the fold of her eyelid there. Okay, that's not looking too bad, I don't think, so let's move on to the other side of her face. And we'll start building up the darker shadows here. Especially towards the edge of her face where her hair comes in. Around that eye socket. Gonna bring the brown down her nose as well, I think. Make sure we got the shadow this side of her nostrils and her nose. Kind of guessing a little bit though, because yeah, I don't usually put my light coming from this way. I'll bring this shadow down to her chin, again leaving that highlight on the edge of her face. Trying to hold back from bringing in the white gel pen. Keeping things simple. Yeah, I think I'm going to try and colour this whole picture just using the 100 Crayolas, plus a few little extras. I think I have used a gold gel pen. That's just a Uniball Signo gold gel pen to use the middle of those flowers, because I think those are meant to be primroses. I've coloured them in another one of her designs, and I think I coloured them yellow to be primroses, so let's try bringing in the dark blue again. A little bit lighter this time. That should hopefully make us make this bit of shadow here look as if it's meant to be that colour. It does look a little bit odd at the moment, but hopefully adding in the blue on this side will make that shadow look as if it is meant to be there. Try and darken up that magenta a little bit, I think. That seems to be working. Seems to be working for colour for our cheeks. So I'll try and darken that up a little bit. Maybe a little bit of black on the edges of her jawline. Starting to make these colours quite deep now. A little shadow for her hair there. We don't have her casting a shadow there, so I'll bring in a little bit of the black. We'll blend the black in with the beaver colour brown, pressing quite hard now. Deepen those colours. That's starting to work. I think we're coming together. I've been fairly quiet on this one, I think. Not as much talking because, yeah, trying to figure out where these colours would go. It's completely opposite of what I would normally do. I think we've got something that's working here, so yay, let's go for it. Okay, bring that lilac in now. Pressing pretty hard with that one as well. Blend in this magenta into that lilac highlight. Going over with the white will help there as well, I'm thinking. I'm being a bit tentative with my colours over on this side because I'm not entirely sure where to put my colours, but we're starting to get there now, so we're starting to build up these colours a little bit more. Probably need to bring in some darker shadow there for the shadow to the side of her nose. Definitely need to darken up that magenta for her cheeks, I think, because over on this side it's pretty dark, so we're going to try and match that on the other side. It's blending quite nicely into that dark brown, I think, that beaver colour. We need to come down into that lavender. Lilac rather, it's called lilac, but it's more of a lavender colour, I think. Kind of like the lavender colour that I like to use for my dark skin tones. That'd be interesting to try actually. I just thought making a dark skin tone using the lavender colour marker as a base. I haven't tried that, to be honest. Okay, let's try bringing in this blue. A little bit stronger for the shadows. I think I'm kind of liking this one so far. It's really dark. A lovely skin tone. I've never thought of using blue before for the shadows, but it just kind of popped into my head to maybe try. And I thought, oh, why not? Yeah, we're starting to reach the limits of the layering there, I think, with the Crayolas. There's quite a few still. So we'll see in a second what that will look like when we blend it with the white. I'm thinking that will work pretty well. Let's see. We do have a little bit of a texture still, but skin has texture anyways. This paper as well, as I've said, is not the best. And going over with the white is definitely helping, I think. And of course you can add more layers, less layers. Play around with the colours yourselves. Just suggestions as always. I'm liking this magenta for cheeks. Yeah, I kind of do have a favourite. I do like this kind of cool colour. Dark skin tone. But the orange one, the oranger kind of ochre one, also works. And they're quite a nice contrast, putting them together like that. I think that's quite a nice contrast we've got going on with both of the skin tones. Maybe I should contrast their hair. Give her a cool hair colour and her a warm hair colour. That might be quite interesting. It's all about playing around. Most of my pictures are all about playing around. You gotta have some fun with it. What's the point otherwise? I think we maybe need to bring in a little bit more of a darker colour here for the eye sockets. Shadow of a nose. Blend that out a little bit. You can still work on top of the white. As long as you don't completely burnish the page, you can work on top of the white after you've blended. Not super much, but you can. And I'll probably bring in the white some more on top of that to blend that. But don't take my word for where these shadows are placed, because yeah, it's not the usual side I have my light coming from. I just want to try and make sure that this side of her face looks darker than that side, so we can have the light side and the dark side, same as we've got here, the light side and the dark side, to give the face a little bit of a 3D shape, and we can see where the light is coming from. I don't think I'll ever be a master at noses. They look sort of bright. I consider it a win. Let's see, maybe we can bring in the lilac colour onto her nose, because the light would be hitting the nose, giving us those purple highlights. Trying to blend out the shadows on this side of her face now, coming from the really dark blue and the black, the dark brown over on that side, into the lavender towards the middle of her forehead. Oh, lilac, I keep calling it lavender. It is more of a lavender colour. I think lilac is kind of pinkier, usually. I could be wrong on that. Not an expert by any means, don't quote me. Okay, let's blend the white. I think her nose might need darkening there, down towards the bottom. We're probably at the limit of the layers we can get there now, once I've gone over with the white. Might even bring in a little bit of that magenta there to blend into the purple. Oh, nose. I'll give her a little beauty mark there. We do have a mark where the pencils didn't blend, and I think up here we had some texture going on, so yeah, why not? I do love the way it makes the skin look a lot more real. I don't think even supermodels have perfect smooth, non-textured skin, unless we're using lots of filters, selfie filters. Nobody really has perfect skin, so I think popping in a few little beauty marks, moles, freckles, whatever we like to call them, I think popping a few of those in really helps skin to look a bit more natural. That's a personal thing though. Fine without them, leave them out. Whatever makes you happy. But I think it's a little bit of fun. Let's bring in that blue. These darkest shadows up here. Maybe over there. There we go, that's better. That looks better. For her eye socket there. We need the folds for her eyelids. Give her eyelids a little bit of form as well. And the eyelids would curve out around her eye, so the corners would be darker, lighter into the middle where the eyelid would come. I'm just adding a little bit of that lilac colour down the side of her nose, try and make that look more nose-like. Not my strongest point, as I've said many times. I think we all know by now I'm not great at noses. But the main point was to show the colour combinations that I was using for the skin tone, and I think, yeah, I kind of demonstrated that. So I might go on to work a little bit more on those noses off camera, and I'll probably go on to finish the whole picture just using the Crayola pencils. Just to try out the Crayola pencils, I might go on and finish the whole picture using that set of 100. And again, just layering a little bit more as much as I can with those colours that I did show you. Just the same colours. I haven't really brought anything else in. I haven't brought anything else in, period. We'll try and blend that in a little bit more, I think. Shouldn't be such a stark line. That's better. Again, I've tried to leave a little bit of the paper, the white paper, coming through with highlights. Mostly on this side of her face for the highlights. So that would be where the light would be hitting it. I'm just bringing down this highlight here a tiny bit. Wouldn't be such bright white over here in the shadow, so I put a little bit of the brown, the beaver brown over there, and just very, very light with the lilac. It's not lavender, it's lilac. Same with under this hair, there wouldn't be such a bright white highlight. And there we are. I'll probably leave that there now. As I've said, not 100% happy with this side of her nose here, but everything else has worked out pretty well, so I'll just zoom us out so we can see those kind of entirely. Okay, I've zoomed us out now so we can see both of the ladies, and I'm pretty pleased with how those have turned out. I do love this colour combination with the lilac or lavender I would usually use. I do love how that works with doing the darker skin tone. Of course, you can add more layers, as many layers as you can get onto the paper that you're working with. This is Colouring Heaven paper. It's pretty smooth, so you can't get super many layers, especially with the Crayola pencils, but I think I've done enough to show how the colours work together and how I would use them to make a skin tone. Looking in the viewfinder, some of my very, very light skin tones are not entirely showing, so I'll try and boost those a little bit in editing so you can see more closely what I do have actually in real life here. And yeah, pretty pleased with how it's turned out. I'm not 100% sold on this shadow I have going on the side of her nose, because usually I would do my light coming this way and the shadow would be going the opposite way, as we did on this face here. I'm a lot more comfortable colouring my noses like that. But yeah, all in all, I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out, so hopefully that's helpful. And as always, if you do have any suggestions or ideas for videos, anything you'd like to see me try and do, then please do drop a comment, drop a line down in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. So if you did enjoy the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you for watching, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye.